Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. First up for D&D today, we have the Dandy Donut Factory mug. Again, got it from a couple of people who play in my home game who just kind of found it at some kind of a thrift store. And inside of it, I didn't bring it with me. It is the Yogi Tea Throat Coat Comfort, whatever it's called. The one that tastes like licorice, because I like licorice. And I know that is not a super popular opinion, but I don't really care. Anyway, let's go ahead. Let's dive into what we're actually talking about today. In honor, if you will, of the newest Dimension 20 season kicking off and it being so much fun. It's so good. It's a blast to get to watch. We're going to talk about 5 things that you can do to help your table run a little bit more like a Dimension 20 table. We'll probably do this one with some of the other major D&D shows at some point here, but Dimension 20 is the one that's fresh in the brain right now, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about Dimension 20 specifically. And again, specifically, those 5 things, or 5 things that you could do to help sort of run your table a little bit more like a Dimension 21. First and foremost, this one is a freebie, actually. This is not one of the 5. I have 5 actual tips here, but the first one is don't try too hard. They have their table that runs in that way, in such a phenomenal way, because it works really well for them. You should be looking for the type of things that will actually help your table specifically. Every table is going to be different. There's no magic secret sauce to just like make everything run the way that a actual play show does. But these in reality are 5 tips for like helping create stories that function similarly, like mechanically, so that the table could be similar to a Dimension 20 table. I want to get that one out of the way first. So the first real tip on this list is to learn every inch of your character sheet. Dungeon masters and people who talk about tips for players online everywhere, forever, have been talking about how important it is for players to actually learn everything about their characters on their character sheets. They harp on this because, shockingly, it's very important. You really should be doing this because the more that you know about your character, the easier your Dungeon Master's time is going to be, the more that they can focus on their own things. But more specifically, the more that you know about your character, the less the DM has to know at all times about your character, because you're not going to be asking questions like, how does this function? What do I do with this? If you just know how it works. So if you have every inch of your character sheet learned, your DM isn't necessarily thinking about everything that your character can do, and you can really surprise them and surprise everybody at the table with some of the stuff that you can do. It makes me think of things that Emily Axford, Allie Beardsley have just like pulled out of nowhere and thrown at Brennan to just be confused. There are the times where anybody at the table literally knocks Brennan back on his heels almost, and they tell him that he has to eat his dice, and then he eats the candy dice that are hard candy that he then has to like spit into his coffee or something. That comes from knowing every single inch of your character sheet. Every tiny fragment of paper you should know inside and out. You are the one running that character. You knowing that is going to be a massive boon to not only you and the Dungeon Master, but the table as a whole, the whole table energy, because there will not be as many like stops to go look something up in the rules. Next, only say no if there is a direct answer to what is going on. People talk about how improv is the game of yes and, how D&D is an extended form of improv. It is long form improvisational acting, if you will. And so don't say no to things. The only time that you really should be saying no is if there is specifically an answer that you are able to then turn around and give to the person. If somebody says, hey, you're 12 feet tall, you go, no, actually, I'm 6 feet tall. You have the direct answer. You don't need to go, no, let me launch into a long tangent about my own personal lore. You just need to go, no, here's the answer, and then everything can keep clipping right along. In fact, oftentimes, if you can just sort of like interject with the right answer, you get to keep whatever energy is running at the table going, even though you have said no in this. This is more of like an improv ish tip than like something about playing better, but it helps with the speed and pacing of the game, because the speed and the pacing of the game are the most important pieces of the game, quite frankly. So because the reality is that Dimension 20, this kind of goes back to the you can't thing, you don't try, they edit their showdown. They cut out, if let's say between what was it, Fantasy High 1 and 2 or Unsleeping City 1 and 2, one of them is live, one of them is not. The one that is not live is approximately 30 to 45 minutes shorter per episode than the one that is live, which means that they cut out 30 to 45 minutes of math, of talking, of vamping, of things like that. So if you want to be able to actually maintain that sort of clip at the table, one, realize that you are trying to compete with like people who are actively having editing done for them, and try to keep things focused and moving forward at speed. You don't want to sit there and go and be frozen from decision paralysis. There we go. You want to be able to just like plow through things and keep moving forward, which is why that if you say no, it could bring things to a screeching halt if that no does not come with a very, very concise, quick answer. So yeah, only say no if there is a direct answer that is very quick. Third, this is number 3 apparently, commit to the bit. This one is probably the most important one for making it feel kind of like a D20 table, but it's kind of like the thing that makes Dungeons and Dragons so fun a lot of the time. Just commit to the bit of what is going on. It ties in with the yes and thing. It ties in with the not saying no. Just commit to whatever bit is going on. If you think about characters like Fabian Seacaster, if you think about characters like Evan Kelp, if you think about like any of these major characters in Dimension 20, if something is said about them in general, they will grab it and they will sprint to the end zone with it, because they know that if they run with this thing, it's funny. It's in part the whole like collaborative storytelling thing, where you are trusting the people around the table with you to like give you more information, fun little details to just throw on there, while at the same time being able to control the narrative a little bit yourself. And when you are committing to the bit, it brings a lot of levity to the table, and that is one of the most appealing things about Dimension 20 specifically, is that there is just like there is so much like humor and fun in it that it feels good. It feels nice. It feels like a bunch of friends. Granted, the newest season is horror based, but in the first episode, it's horror for like 10 minutes, and then it's just goofy for the rest of the time. So, it's their kind of horror. So commit to the bit, because committing to the bit is what brings you so many of those hyper memorable moments, where you're not trying to get everything right. You're just trying to have a good time. You're trying to kick back. You're trying to, enjoy yourself and be goofy, be fun. You are a made-up character whose fate is controlled by a bunch of rocks in an alternate dimension. I need you to understand that about D&D. So that's number 3, commit to the bit. Number 4, collaborate to make your character. This is one of the more like mechanically sound tips that I've got here. If you are really wanting to have that feel of like a Dimension 20 or even like a Critical Role or something like that, you have to collaborate with pretty much everybody to create your character. Yes, there is a lot of surprise, a lot of fun in like coming up with a character and showing up to the table and people like trying to figure it out as you go along over the first few sessions, but collaborate with people to make your character. It could be just saying, hey, do you want to play siblings? Hey, do you want to play characters who are conning someone? Hey, Mr. Dungeon Master Man, I would like to have this be my character. How do I work that into the world? All of these are combinations that, one, you probably should be talking about anyway if you are not actively using them, because the reality is that you want to like foster that environment of like active collaboration around the table. If you open up that door of collaboration, it allows people the function a little bit more to offer you details. And if you're being offered details, you can in the moment decide, yes, I want that, no, I don't want that, I want to change this. And it allows you to like construct the narrative as you are going through it. which is a really, really important thing to be able to do in a D&D game. So collaborating to make your character also jumps back to learning every inch of your character sheet, because if you have collaborated to create that character, people around the table can help remind you of things that have happened to your character. And so having the extra fingers in the pot, I know that's not how you cook, but you know, it's what I'm going with right now. I'm gonna stick to my guns on this one. Having the extra collaboration, having the extra voices, having the extra cooks in the kitchen is never going to be something that is truly detrimental. You can say at a certain point, okay, I'm good, thank you so much, and you can have everybody step back so that you are ready to present a fun, interesting character. When I say everybody, I do not include the Dungeon Master in that, because the Dungeon Master is the one that has to know what is going on in order for the game to actually function. So don't write your DM out of that. But you can still keep that element of surprise while having that active collaboration from everybody else that is going to be sitting around the table with you. So that's number 4, collaborate to make your character. And number 5, I mean, the most important one, honestly, drive the plot. Dimension 20 is set up to be anywhere from 4 to 25 episode seasons, campaigns. They are all short game. Every single one of them is a short play game, which means that they need to get to the end of the plot as fast as possible. Brennan talks about it in an interview. I want to say it might have been the DM's roundtable at Critical Role did, but it was an interview somewhere where he talks about how he knows going into the games that he has 10 sessions to get from start to finish, and he has to figure out how to get there. The players have to make it to that end. Being able to support that goal by being a player who will drive the plot means that you are actively helping with that. If you are a DM, deciding the most important things to hit along the way, finding the pieces of information that are going to be relevant to the players as they come across them, having that twist locked up in your head, and then when the players get to it, instead of having them like sit there and try and figure it out, serve it up to them a little bit, like give them a bunch of like leading kind of questions. Being able to sit down and go yes and then adjust things on the fly while also trying to like sort of course correct back to where you need to be. All of these things are wildly important when you are trying to drive the plot forward. That is not to say don't have vignettes, don't have little like sidebars, don't have little things that are going on, because those are oftentimes the most important things that do happen in a D&D game. However, your life is going to be so much easier if you can just push the plot from point A to point B. If you look at it, Dimension 20 does not have a lot of side missions because they are trying so desperately to get from the start to finish and just make it there. Like, just accomplish the goal that they have set out to do. And when you look at something like Critical Role instead, there are just wide swaths where they are off the beaten path doing whatever they want to over here because they have the time. They have the openness. Part of the thing that makes Dimension 20 and like makes it so easy for people to consume when compared to things like Critical Role is it moves fast because the plot is being driven, and they don't wander because the plot is being driven. So drive forward the plot. Do not commit yourself to a railroad, but do what you can to push the actual storyline forward if you are looking for a Dimension 20 kind of feel, because again, they are hustling down from start to finish. In order to actually like make it to that ending point. So that's my number 5, drive the plot. But again, I go back to that first free one that I threw out there for you. Don't necessarily try to recreate Dimension 20. You can try and evoke the same overall feeling at your table that Dimension 20 has, but there is no reason for anybody to try to actually emulate any sort of Dungeon Master player, anything like that. I have identified myself as a player, as the big red button kind of player. I like to go push the big shiny things. I like to, make the bad choices. That could be any number of professional D&D players that I could be, seeing and trying to sort of evoke in that. Like, a really good example, Travis Willingham. I don't think that I play like Travis Willingham, but I know that I have that part of it in my brain. There is no reason to try and be one of these pro players that you see. Just be you, but know what you want to be doing as a player. Know who you are as a player, and that is going to really serve you even better than trying to follow any of these tips to like create fast-paced storylines with a lot of humor that like punch really hard emotionally every once in a while. Just understand your table, know who you are as a player, know who the other people around you are as players. And that is going to be your recipe for success. But if you are looking to create the overall atmospheric feel of Dimension 20, these 5 things might actually help you out a little bit. So that is everything I have for you on that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the shows we have today and this weekend. First off, today, Friday, we have Mayhem D&D, Off the Rails, Oxventure, Just Roll With It, The Strings of Fate, Rolling with Difficulty, World of Loath, The Crown DM, and Coming Together Naturally. I believe I'm on the next Coming Together Naturally. They released their 16 Part 2, which I was not on, so I believe that I'm going to be on 17 Part 1, maybe? So check them out if you want to hear me play a little man. I was on 16 Part 1, so there you go. Saturday, we have Dice Funk and Strange Hungers, and Sunday, we have Super Idols, Roll For Your Life, Grinning Griffin, Dungeon Drunks, Library of Nightmares, The Cast Brigade, Rise of the Forsaken, Chromatic Dice, The Strawcast, High Rollers, and Tabletop Notch. Go check them out. Oh, boy. Go check them out, guys, because go check them out and let them know that I sent you, because, again, someday somebody is going to say something to me about it, and I'm going to think that it's funny. But until then, I'm going to keep asking you all to do it. Yeah, just add a little D&D to your weekend. Everybody needs a little bit of it. I mean, like, let's be real here. But that is everything I have to talk to you guys about today. So, thank you so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my subscribers. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in subscribing, there is a big button down below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or you can find me wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you go shopping for those, because that's how podcasts work. We shop for them often. Just ignore me. I am saying words for no reason now, because that is everything I have to talk to you guys about today. So, with all that said, don't forget, everybody, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.